Welcome to 6.07. We're going to start getting more and more mathematical from now on out, as we've seen kind of the different ways to look at data and observe data and create an experiment, create a trial, so on and so forth. And so today will kind of be the beginning of us really looking at how we can mathematically kind of recreate certain situations to test out whether the results we're getting make sense or not. All right, so suppose you are told that a university accepts half of its applicants. So the probability, P, is used for probability, that someone is accepted is equal to 0.5. How could you simulate the university's acceptance decision? So I want you to think of it something that you could do right now in your home that could simulate whether the university accepts someone or denies them. The way that I like to think of anything that has a probability associated with it of 0.5 is to use a coin. You can assume that a coin is fair, and if you flip it, you toss it up in the air, it should have a 50-50 chance of either landing heads or tails. So how could you simulate the university's decision? Well, you could pick one side to be heads. So let's say that you have a coin that could either be heads or tails. And you say, if you get a heads, that means that you were accepted. And if you get a tails, that means you were denied. Okay? And so you can use this to simulate whether or not someone gets into the university, right? So say that I apply to the university. You could simulate the university making its decision by flipping the coin, and if it's heads, I would be accepted, and if it's tails, I would be denied. So here's the question. Let's say you and 4 friends apply and all get in. Would you be surprised? Why or why not? Use your simulation to back up your answer. So first off, I want you to pause the video and write whether you're surprised, yes or no, and why. So if you're not surprised, why? And if you are surprised, explain why. All right, now let's use our simulation to see if this will happen. So here's what we're going to do, and this is important, so you need to listen carefully. If you and your friends all apply, that means you have 5 people applying, right? So 5 flips. If all of them get in, that means that those 5 flips should go heads, 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 heads. All right? This is where all get accepted. And so the question is, should I be surprised to get 5 heads in a row? Okay? And so what I'd like to do is, as a whole class, we're going to see how long it takes us to get 5 straight heads in a row. Okay? So to make this easy, what you're going to do is you're going to flip the coin 5 times in a row. Okay? If you don't get a heads at some point, so let's say you go heads, heads, tails, start over. Okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to count the number of times that you have to flip 5 in a row in order to get 5 heads. So let me be very clear. If you start flipping and you get heads, tails, you start over, and that counts as 1 time through. Okay, so you put a tally mark and start counting. Right? Let's say I go again, and I go heads, 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 tails. Well, that's another time that it took me, didn't get there. Okay? So now I go heads, 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 heads. I got it on the 3rd try, so it took me 3 tries. Okay? And we're going to post the number of tries that it took in order for you to get 5 heads in a row. Okay? Now, based on your number of attempts that it took, are you still surprised? Are you not surprised that everyone got in? If you are changing your answer, go ahead. In class, what we're going to do is we're going to use the number of tries that it took and use this to calculate what we think the probability of us getting in 5 straight people into this university if the probability that someone's accepted is 50% or 0.5. Now let's go ahead and look at a situation where the simulation might be a little different. Now suppose that a university accepts 20% of its applicants. In other words, now the probability that someone is accepted is 0.2. How could you simulate the university's acceptance decision? And so here, notice that flipping a coin isn't going to work, right? Because flipping a coin does not have a probability of 20% that it lands on one side or the other.
Yeah.
So we need to come up with a different simulation that will allow us to model the way that the university accepts students. So I want you to pause the video and think about a method that you could use. We've actually seen 2 different types of methods early on in the class that will allow you to model this situation. So I want you to think about how you could do that, and I want you to have an answer, write out how you could model something with a probability of only 20% or 0.2, and then use it to see how long it'll take you to get 5 people in a row into the university. Okay? So spend your time doing that. Trust me, it's not that incredibly difficult. If you'd like a hint, I suggest that you think about using a random number generator, but that's not the only way that you could do it. Okay? And this is what I will check tomorrow in class to see if you've attempted to do this situation with a probability of only 0.2.